The story behind the song. Toward the close of the Second War with Great Britain, the War of 1812, just following the raid of the British upon the city of Washington, we see a young man hurrying along the streets of Baltimore, Maryland, a look of earnest intent upon his face, determination in every vigorous stride.
Francis Key.
John Skinner, greetings.
What's the reason for this haste?
Have you heard of the plight of old Dr. William Beans?
Dr. Beans? No, what's happened?
He's under arrest on board the British flagship.
Good heavens. What for?
Well, doubtlessly acting from patriotic motives, he placed a pack of British camp followers under arrest and clapped them in jail for disturbing the peace in Upper Marlborough.
He's magistrate there, isn't he?
Yes, but that didn't seem to impress the British Navy. I've been assigned the task of trying to save the old doctor from hanging.
Hanging?
I'm quite sure it's just a threat that we must keep our hands off any British sympathizers henceforth.
You're going to the British flagship?
I am, right now.
But, man, isn't that dangerous?
Dangerous? Of course it's dangerous. You can't walk into the hands of the enemy without danger.
I'll go with you.
What?
Yes, I'll go with you. You'll need someone to help you.
Oh, very well. Thank you, John. Come along.
Francis Scott Key and John Skinner embark upon a small boat which takes them directly to the British flagship on the morning of September 6th, 1814, and are ushered into the quarters of Vice Admiral Sir George Cockburn.
Well, well, gentlemen, this is indeed an honor.
Thank you, sir.
My quarters are small, but ample for my needs until I return to England. Pray be seated. Be seated, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Now, you are Mr. Francis Scott Key?
I am, sir.
And of what service can I be to you, sir?
We seek the release of an American citizen, one Dr. William Beans, whom your forces took captive some days ago.
Oh, so that's it.
It is.
It is it? Well, well, well. I can't say that I'm surprised, gentlemen. Very well. We shall see. Lieutenant,
Aye, sir.
bring the prisoner Beans to me here.
Aye, sir.
He's an irascible old chap, isn't he? I fear he'd make a poor naval man.
In what way, sir?
Well, he doesn't like the food, nor his bed, nor his guard. Indeed, you would have thought the Prime Minister himself were aboard the ship. The manner in which we cater to the old doctor's whims. Ah, the doctor himself. Come in, my good friend.
I'm not your good friend. And I demand this outrage cease at once. I demand my release.
Oh, now, doctor, you must be patient.
Patient? Patient? Do you realize, sir, that you are detaining a citizen of the United States of America?
I realize, sir, that now I'm detaining 3 citizens of the United States of America.
What?
Do you mean that you're holding Mr. Skinner and myself as prisoners?
Not as prisoners, gentlemen, as in forced guests.
Ah, this is an insult.
No, not an insult, my good doctor. I am paying all of you a most generous and gracious compliment.
I do not understand.
I shall explain myself, Mr. Key. In a few days, our fleet sails under battle orders for certain maneuvers, which, if known in circles of the American Army or Navy, would doubtless fail. I know, of course, that you gentlemen are patriots of your own country and would not hesitate to reveal any secrets you might have learned while aboard this ship. So, I detain you as guests of the British Navy.
And where is the compliment, if you please, sir?
Ah, the compliment. Yes. Quite simple, Mr. Key. Instead of allowing you to return to your homes and chancing that you withhold the information, I invite you to remain here, because I know that you are patriots.
For a week, the three Americans are held aboard the British ship until, on the night of September 13th, we find them on deck, talking among themselves.
I have heard news, Key.
What is it, Skinner? Quickly.
Yes, man, the suspense.
One of the sailors told me the British are attacking Fort McHenry tonight.
Fort McHenry. Then that is our destination.
I have heard, too, that while the fleet attacks the fort by sea, General Ross will be attacking North Point by land.
And Major Armistead with a handful of men at the fort. Small wonder Sir George detained us with such information floating about.
Yes, and here we are. 3 able-bodied Americans, helpless to lend assistance to our country. I'm going below. I will not stand here to see my country fired upon without being able to lift a finger in defense.
Poor Dr. Beans, still the militant.
Oh, the night is black. I wish we could see.
All we shall see, John, is the fire from these cannons and the answer from Fort McHenry.
Until dawn.
Yes, until dawn.
Oh, when will it begin?
Not impatient, John.
No. Just uneasy. This waiting.
Wait no more, John. It's beginning.
Oh, what will they do at Fort McHenry?
Probably return the fire. Yes. There. Skinner, can you see anything at the fort?
No.
You cannot see the flag by any chance, can you?
No. Wait. Yes.
Yes, I see it too.
What are you doing?
Writing.
On an old envelope? What are you writing?
A little verse.
I didn't know you were a poet.
No, not a poet, John. Just a writer of verses.
Oh, how can you write under these conditions?
Let the thought suit the inspiration.
What? What do you mean?
Wait, I have another line. The rocket's red glare. Oh, yes. The bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night our flag was still there.
Through the night, the 2 Americans stand watching. Then, toward dawn,
Oh, this awful night.
It's most over, I think, John. Yes, look. There in the east, a faint glow of light.
Where? Oh, yes. I see it.
We shall soon know the fate of those poor devils at the fort.
Yes, soon. Let us hope they withstood the fire.
We'll do more than hope. We'll pray.
Do you see anything yet, Francis?
My eyes are weary from watching. At times, I think I can see, and then I realize it's just imagination.
Look. Is that imagination?
No. By heaven, you're right. Armistead has held them off. The flag is still there.
a few days later, after the 3 enforced guests had been released from Admiral Coburn's flagship, Francis Scott Key was in his study when the door burst open and his 2 friends, Skinner and Dr. Beans, rushed in.
Francis, look. See what they've done.
Yes, it's wonderful, young man. You've done the country a service which the people can never forget.
What do you mean? Sit down.
Sit down, he says. I couldn't sit down now if my life depended upon it. I'm thrilled.
Well, what in the world are you talking about?
Look.
Why, it's my verse. Printed.
Yes. I hope you won't be angry with me, Francis, but I showed your poem, the copy you made for me, to the editor of the newspaper. He had it printed, and thousands of copies of it have been distributed all over Baltimore.
I'm highly honored, John. My thanks to you.
But this is far greater than any of us can realize now, Mr. Key.
What do you mean, Doctor?
I mean simply this. There's not the slightest doubt in my mind but that this poem of yours will cement the faltering hopes of the people. You know how the public mind has been wavering as to the wisdom of this war. I thought to do my share by my rash act a few days ago, but I was going about it with malice in my heart. You, young man, you have looked out over the bitter forces of this horrible war. You've scanned the horizon far above the hate of conflict and have seen aright. Francis Key, you have created the masterpiece which will inspire the American people to go on, to fight the war to the end, to strive with more vigor for the great final victory we must win.
I didn't create this poem, gentlemen. It was born of the union of pity for those who have fallen and my innate love for my country. If the people can be brought closer together by it, I'm happy. I've not been able to enter the war actively, and if this can be of service, if the people will remember it, I shall be immeasurably happy.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose cross stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave? For the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Lepanto by G.K. Chesterton for the LibriVox Coffee Break Collection 10, War and Conflict. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Patrick Wallace. Lepanto by G.K. Chesterton for the LibriVox Coffee Break Collection 10, War and Conflict. White founts falling in the courts of the sun, and the Soldan of Byzantium is smiling as they run. There is laughter like the fountains in that face of all men feared. It stirs the forest darkness, the darkness of his beard. It curls the blood-red crescent, the crescent of his lips. For the inmost sea of all the earth is shaken with his ships. They have dared the white republics up the capes of Italy. They have dashed the Adriatic round the Lion of the Sea. And the Pope has cast his arms abroad for agony and loss, and called the kings of Christendom for swords about the cross. The cold Queen of England is looking in the glass. The shadow of the Valois is yawning at the mast. From evening isles fantastical rings faint the Spanish gun, and the Lord upon the golden horn is laughing in the sun. Dim drums throbbing in the hills half heard, where only on a nameless throne a crownless prince has stirred, where, risen from a doubtful seat and half attainted stall, the last knight of Europe takes weapons from the wall, the last and lingering troubadour to whom the bird has sung, that once went singing southward when all the world was young. In that enormous silence, tiny and unafraid, comes up along a winding road the noise of the crusade. Strong gongs groaning as the guns boom far, Don John of Austria is going to the war. Stiff flags straining in the night blasts cold, in the gloom black purple, in the glint old gold, torchlight crimson on the copper kettle drums, then the tuckets, then the trumpets, then the cannons, and he comes. Don John laughing in the brave beard curled, spurning of his stirrups like the thrones of all the world, holding his head up for a flag of all the free. Love light of Spain, hurrah! Death light of Africa, Don John of Austria is riding to the sea. Mahound is in his paradise above the evening star. Don John of Austria is going to the war. He moves a mighty turban on the timeless Houri's knees, his turban that is woven of the sunsets and the seas. He shakes the peacock gardens as he rises from his ease, and he strides among the treetops, and is taller than the trees, and his voice through all the garden is a thunder sent to bring Black Azrael and Ariel and Ammon on the wing, giants and the genii, multiplex of wing and eye, whose strong obedience broke the sky when Solomon was king. They rush in red and purple from the red clouds of the morn, from the temples where the yellow gods shut up their eyes in scorn. They rise in green robes roaring from the green hells of the sea, where fallen skies and evil hues and eyeless creatures be. On them the sea valves cluster and the grey sea forests curl, splashed with a splendid sickness, the sickness of the pearl. They swell in sapphire smoke out of the blue cracks of the ground. They gather and they wonder and give worship to Mahound. And he saith, "Break up the mountains where the hermit folk can hide, and sift the red and silver sands, lest bone of saint abide. And chase the Giaours flying night and day, not giving rest, for that which was our trouble comes again out of the west. We have set the seal of Solomon on all things under sun, of knowledge and of sorrow and endurance of things done. But a noise is in the mountains, and I know the voice that shook our palaces 400 years ago. It is he that saith not Kismet, it is he that knows not fate. It is Richard, it is Raymond, it is Godfrey at the gate. It is he whose loss is laughter when he counts the wager worth. Put down your feet upon him, that our peace be on the earth. For he heard drums groaning and he heard guns jar. Don John of Austria is going to the war. Sudden and still, hurrah, bolt from Iberia, Don John of Austria is gone by Alcalá. St. Michael's on his mountain in the sea roads of the north. Don John of Austria is girt and going forth. where the grey seas glitter and the sharp tides shift, and the sea folk labour and the red sails lift. He shakes his lance of iron and he claps his wings of stone. The noise is gone through Normandy, the noise is gone alone. The north is full of tangled things and texts and aching eyes, and dead is all the innocence of anger and surprise. And Christian killeth Christian in a narrow dusty room, and Christian dreadeth Christ that hath a newer face of doom, and Christian hateth Mary that God kissed in Galilee. But Don John of Austria is riding to the sea, Don John calling through the blast and the eclipse, crying with the trumpet of his lips, trumpet that saith, Ha! Domino Gloria, Don John of Austria is shouting to the ships. King Philip's in his closet with the fleece about his neck. Don John of Austria is armed upon the deck. The walls are hung with velvet that is black and soft as sin, and little dwarfs creep out of it, and little dwarfs creep in. He holds a crystal phial that has colours like the moon. He touches, and it tingles, and he trembles very soon. And his face is as a fungus of a leprous white and grey, like plants in the high houses that are shuttered from the day, and death is in the phial, and the end of noble work. But Don John of Austria has fired upon the Turk. Don John's hunting, and his hounds have bayed. Booms away past Italy the rumour of his raid. Gun upon gun, ha-ha, gun upon gun, hurrah! Don John of Austria has loosed the cannonade. The Pope was in his chapel before day or battle broke. Don John of Austria is hidden in the smoke. The hidden room in man's house where God sits all the year, the secret window whence the world looks small and very dear. He sees as in a mirror on the monstrous twilight sea the crescent of his cruel ships whose name is mystery. They fling great shadows forwards, making cross and castle dark. They veil the plumed lions on the galleys of St. Mark, and above the ships are palaces of brown black-bearded chiefs, and below the ships are prisons, where with multitudinous griefs Christian captives, sick and sunless, all a labouring race repines, like a race in sunken cities, like a nation in the mines. They are lost like slaves that sweat, and in the skies of morning hung the stairways of the tallest gods when tyranny was young. They are countless, voiceless, hopeless, as those fallen or fleeing on before the high king's horses in the granite of Babylon. And many a one grows witless in his quiet room in hell, where a yellow face looks inward through the lattice of his cell. And he finds his God forgotten, and he seeks no more a sign. But Don John of Austria has burst the battle line, Don John pounding from the slaughter-painted poop, purpling all the ocean like a bloody pirate's sloop, scarlet running over on the silvers and the golds, breaking of the hatches up, and bursting of the holds, thronging of the thousands up that labour under sea, white for bliss, and blind for sun, and stunned for liberty. Vivat Hispania, Domino Gloria, Don John of Austria has set his people free. Cervantes, on his galley, sets the sword back in the sheath. Don John of Austria rides homeward with a reef. And he sees across a weary land a straggling road in Spain, up which a lean and foolish knight for ever rides in vain. And he smiles, but not a sultan's smile, and settles back the blade. But Don John of Austria rides home from the crusade. End of Lepanto by G.K. Chesterton for the LibriVox Coffee Break Collection 10, War and Conflict.
Hello, my friends, the Heinz Honey and Almond Cream Program. Starring George Burns friend Gracie Allen with Frank Parker, Ray Noble and his orchestra, and Truman Bradley speaking. And now for those two friendly hands, George Burns and Heinz Honey, Gracie Allen.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hello.
Hello, Gracie. Coming down to the studio tonight, I saw a big banner saying vote for Gracie.
Yeah, I know.
All over town, I see billboards saying put Gracie in the White House.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the newsreels. It's in the papers. Signs right here on the stage saying send Gracie to Washington. What does this mean?
Well, George, I'll let you in on a secret. I'm running for president.
You're running for president?
Yes.
Gracie, how long has this been going on?
For 450 years, George Washington started it.
Gracie, why are you running for president?
Well, because that's the only way you can get to the White House. You can't just walk in and sit down.
The idea is preposterous.
And not only that, but it pays good money.
Look, you don't stand a chance. Presidents are born.
Well, what do you think I was, hatched?
There's nobody who'd be any happier about your success than I'd be. But in the entire history of the United States, there's never been a woman president.
Oh, yeah, isn't that exciting? I'll be the first one.
Well, I tell you...
Hello, George. Hello, Gracie.
Hello, Frank.
I tell you haven't got a Chinaman's chance.
Well, I don't know about that. Confucius say, lady who has eye on presidential chair pretty soon gets seat on it.
And George Burns say, girl who talk nutty Wednesday make good nut Sunday.
Oh, that's good.
How do you like that joke, Frank?
Egyptian monument.
Egyptian monument?
Sphinx.
It does, huh? Gracie, have you any idea what a person has to be before they can become president?
Sure, elected.
The whole thing is absurd.
Oh, stop worrying, George. I may not even be elected until next November.
Well, that's a load off my mind.
I might not even be in the White House before 1941.
I see. In other words, you're as good as in.
I'm better than in.
What do you mean you're better than in?
Well, if I was in now, I'd have to be getting out next January.
You, the President of the United States.
And Mexico.
And Mexico?
Well, sure. It's just across the border from California, so it'll be easy for them to vote for me.
What about Canada?
It'll be a landslide.
You know, this may be a shock to you, but there are some places that don't belong to the United
So
States.
what? How many votes are there in Glendale anyway?
For president, it takes a person with tremendous stamina, a person with unusual ability and sound judgment, a mental genius.
Oh, thanks.
Thanks. The president has to have courage and show plenty of backbone.
Show plenty of backbone. Well, wait till you see my new evening dress.
Still doesn't make you a leader of men. You have to have plenty of followers.
Well, wait till you see my new evening dress.
Oh, quiet. The president must have determination. He must let people see what he's made of.
Well, wait till you
See my new evening dress, I know.
Say, Gracie, when you're elected president, you ought to change the income tax laws so all stars are allowed the same deductions.
Frank, in this country, everybody's allowed the same deductions.
Oh, yeah? Look what Sally Rand is allowed to take off each year.
How do I get mixed up in these things?
Well, Frank's helping me in my campaign.
Then it'll be a tremendous success.
Sure. You see, every day I have to go out and kiss a lot of babies. And Frank goes along with me to kiss the mothers.
Yeah. He does, huh?
Yes.
Oh, yes, boy, and I'm a terrific speaker. Why, I addressed 500 mothers this afternoon.
What did you say to him?
Get in line there, kiddies. Get in line there.
Kitty.
That he did.
Now, listen to me, Gracie. This thing has got to stop before it goes too far.
Say, George, didn't you know that Gracie was running for president?
Sure, I knew it. But I didn't think she was serious.
Why, certainly she's serious. So are Dewey and Garner.
Yeah, but Dewey and Garner have political affiliations.
Well, maybe that's because they weren't vaccinated.
You don't understand. Have you got a Republican or a Democratic machine in back of you?
No, that's a bustle.
A bustle. Well, I knew it looks good. Glad I asked.
Isn't it exciting, George?
Isn't what exciting?
Well, if Gracie gets in, it'll be the first time that a woman president has ever been elected for a third term.
A third term?
Oh, yes, yes. Oh, she's done a splendid job. I mean, you show me any other country where you can get a double-decker ice cream cone for a nickel.
Ray, I've got a surprise for you. Gracie hasn't done her first and second term yet. You've got her mixed up with Roosevelt.
Oh, no, I haven't. Roosevelt lives in the White House in Washington, and Gracie lives in the Yellow House in Beverly Hills. I know.
Ray, sometime I'm going to have you psychoanalyzed.
Oh, thanks just the same, George, but I've already taken out my first papers.
Well, welcome to our country. That's the silliest thing I ever heard of.
Miss Allen, Jaime thinking the photographers are ready now to take those campaign pictures.
Oh, now don't go away, boys. I'll be right back.
Now, listen to me, fellas.
Stop worrying, George. Gracie's promised to give us all swell government jobs.
Government jobs?
Sure.
Are you sap enough to fall for that, Truman?
Sap? Just a minute, George. That's no way to speak to a Supreme Court justice.
Supreme Court justice? Truman, do you actually believe...
Just think, George, I'll be the only ambassador to Great Britain who ever played a violin.
Gracie told you that she would make you ambassador to Great Britain, huh?
Yes. Oh, I had my choice of that or Secretary of the Navy.
I see. But you didn't want to be Secretary of the Navy.
No, I look so silly in a sailor suit.
This whole thing is ridiculous. What did she promise to make you, Frank? Secretary of the Treasury?
Well, she wanted to, Judge, but I'm too smart to tumble for anything like that.
Well, I'm glad that somebody left on this program with some sense.
I'm the new Postmaster General.
Postmaster General?
Sure, on account of my experience.
What experience have you had?
Want to play post office?
Oh, go away. Go away. You silly man.
Boy, where do you see the picture I had taken?
I'm not interested in any picture. We're here to do a broadcast.
Did you know that the Democrats have a donkey and the Republicans have an elephant?
What have you got, a squirrel?
Oh, I wish I'd thought of that. But I posed with a kangaroo.
A kangaroo?
Well, it'll make a wonderful campaign picture.
I'll bet.
It was a mama kangaroo, and the little baby kangaroo was sticking his head out of the pouch. And it's
A baby kangaroo sticking his head out of the pouch?
Yes, and it's got to be my election slogan.
What slogan?
It's in the bag.
It is, Now, woman back.
Has any man ever said to you, darling, I love you forever? He says forever, but in your secret heart you know he means forever as long as you keep yourself attractive. So by all means, help your hands keep their smooth loveliness. Use Heinz Honey and Almond Cream day in and day out. Every single ingredient in Heinz lotion is good for rough or tender skin, whether it's on your face, your hands, or your body. This fine, fragrant cream helps prevent chapping and roughness, and that awful weathered dryness that makes your skin look so drawn and old. Smooth Heinz lotion all over your red hands and wrists. Notice how even one application makes your chapped hands feel softer, look more appealing. Use Heinz as a powder base, too. See how evenly it holds the powder, no caking at all. And as a body rub, Heinz is a honey. It's so extra creamy, extra softening, that every drop brings real soothing comfort to tender skin. Heinz Honey and Almond Cream contains 2 vitamins, 2 A and D. You can count on Heinz, H-I-N-D-S, for softer, smoother, lovelier skin on hands, face, and body. Now, here is...
Stop.
You are.
Frank, I just sent a telegram to my campaign chairman in the Middle West.
Oh, good.
He told me he couldn't get any support from the Farm Belt.
So what?
So I told him to wear suspenders.
What happens if the county seat has 2 pairs of pants?
Oh, George, you're just trying to say, to make me say silly things so people will laugh at me.
That's bad, huh?
Say, Gracie, what's going to be the name of your party?
Well, Truman, you've heard of the Democratic Party and the Republican Party?
Yes.
Well, mine's going to be the Surprise Party.
The what?
The Surprise Party. Surprise. S-U-R-P-R-I-S-E.
Yeah, S for screwy, U for useless.
Yeah, and R for reading, writing, and arithmetic.
P for pinhead.
Yeah, and R for oysters are in season. And I, the knife for an eye.
A tooth for a tooth.
And S for some fun, and E for pencils.
E for pencils?
Ever shop?
Well, that all depends on how you look at it.
Say, the surprise party's a swell name, I think. How'd you happen to call it that, Gracie?
Well, my daddy is a Democrat, and my mother is a Republican. And when I was born, I was a surprise.
So was the Panic of 1907.
Gracie? Yes, Bobo?
You know those temporary campaign headquarters we opened on Broadway this morning?
Yes.
Well, I'm afraid we'll have to move them.
Why?
There's a streetcar coming.
Oh.
Gracie, just tell the streetcar, believe it or not, you're waiting to be president.
Oh, Gracie, I'm working on your campaign song.
You've got a campaign song?
Oh, yes. It starts like this. I'll be down to get you with the taxpayers' money. Better be ready by the 8:30.
Oh, dearie, don't be late. Let's sing a song. What do you say?
Oh, by the way, Gracie, you know those pictures in Life magazine of that Republican candidate catching that big mackerel at Miami?
Yes?
Well, I just found out that he's just caught it again in Lake Michigan.
Ray, the whole thing was done to get votes.
No, really. What's the fish running for?
It's because it doesn't want to get caught.
Miss Allen, did you see this morning's paper?
No, what was in it?
My lunch.
Your lunch?
George, this is my publicity man, Gene.
How do? Well, I'll run along now, but don't forget, Miss Allen, you're jumping out of that plane in the morning.
You're jumping out of a plane in the morning?
Only 10,000 feet. It's just to attract attention.
You're liable to get killed.
Well, sure, but look at all the publicity I'll get.
Gracie, will you stop this?
Miss Allen, I'm a sign painter. Are the slogans ready for your campaign signs?
Oh, well, I'll make up a few right now. Bubbles, get a pencil.
Okay.
Number 1. Confucius says, Gracie Allen for Prez.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I've got it. Number 2. Gracie Allen for Alderman.
Gracie Allen for alderman?
Yeah, and aldermen for Gracie Allen.
Hey, that's wonderful.
Yes, and baking powder for Burns.
Number 3.
That's great.
Yes.
Thanks.
Number 3, we'll make one sign with nothing on it.
A sign with nothing on it?
Sure, to get the nudist vote.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Gracie, why don't you have a doctor examine your head, and if he finds anything, have somebody examine the doctor.
Well, that would be a good idea for me, too.
Yes, do that.
You know, I think this will make an awfully jolly sign, Gracie. If you're 21, vote for Gracie Allen. If you're not 21, have your mother do it for you. If your mother isn't 21, ask your father. If your father isn't 21, then don't bother reading this sign.
Oh, I like that. That's good.
Wonderful.
Sign painter, get out of here with that's wonderful.
All right, Mr. Boynes, but you'll hear from me when I'm Attorney General.
At least, Gracie, if you are elected, I'll get rid of you for 4 years.
12 years.
12 years?
For sure, I'm not superstitious about third terms.
You're not, huh? Do you people realize that right now our sponsor is probably listening?
Oh, I say, Bubbles, I happened to see a drawing of you on the Republican poster. Quite flattering, too. Who drew that?
Mr. Noble, that was an elephant.
It's amazing. What will they teach him to do next?
Cheerio.
Oh, cheerio.
Yes. You know, Gracie, I've been worrying about the speeches you're going to make at your rallies.
Have you rally?
Yes, have you rally. Well, wait till you hear the speeches, crew, and then you'll have something to worry about.
Well, I'm serious, George. You see, Gracie, a presidential candidate has to shake hands with millions of people.
As if we don't know what's coming.
Why, in a single campaign, the average candidate shakes enough hands to milk all the cows in the country.
Is that so? And what do they do with all the milk?
They use it to whitewash their opponents.
Say, George, is it true that the whitewash is
That's
more
enough,
than the
Gracie. You
blackwash
don't
is?
even have to finish it. Just stay where you
I want to
are.
know.
So at your rallies, Gracie, I can protect you. You see, before each meeting, I can tell the voters how Heinz Honey and Almond Cream will make their hands soft and make their hands white and make their hands smooth.
Well, what if they've only got 2 hands?
Then they can use a small bottle.
Oh.
See what I mean? A small size.
Yes.
Why, if they'll only use the 25-cent bottle while you're speaking, Gracie, their hands will be thrilling to touch and good till the last drop.
Truman, you're thinking of Maxwell House coffee.
Oh, pardon me.
Oh, hello, Jim.
Hello, Miss Allen. Well, they said I couldn't do it. Well, I couldn't get anywhere here in Los Angeles, so I flew right to Sacramento. I couldn't get to first base there. So without food or sleep, I went on to Jefferson City, Missouri. From there to Springfield, Illinois. On into Albany, New York City, and then to Washington, D.C., and I clicked.
Nice work.
Here it is.
What is that?
Horns.
Horns?
I've got to give them out at my convention.
Well, I give up.
These are $3 a dozen, Miss Allen, and they're a steal.
Okay, steal me a dozen.
Now, here's a horn that the Republicans and Democrats are using. Of course, this is very hard to blow.
Oh, well, they have more wind than we have.
Yeah, but not between the ears. And what is this convention?
For the Chamber of Commerce.
Well, where are you going to hold it?
By the handle.
Come on, come on.
down and take a letter.
All right. Now, is the letter important, or can I leave my gloves on?
Well, it's...
Gracie, you better talk quietly. She uses a soft pencil.
Oh. Letter. Frank, what's today's date?
Elsie, Edna couldn't make it.
February 28th.
All right, I'm ready.
Oh, good. To all other presidential candidates, semicolon, United States of America, period, gentlemen, question mark.
Gentlemen, question mark.
I've got it.
Well, boys, the jig is up.
Well, it's a nice opening.
Election day will be in November this year. Turkeys will cost you 38 cents a pound. Cranberries will be 50 cents a bucket. Plum puddings will be $2 each. But a good president won't cost you a nickel, so be sure and go out and vote for me.
You're asking the other presidential candidates to vote for you?
Oh, sure, there's so many presidential candidates that if I only get half of them to vote for me, I'm bound to be elected.
I see what you mean.
Go ahead, continue.
This letter is being dictated by a lady, typewritten by a lady, so don't forget to take your hats off while you're reading it.
I've got it.
All right. Signed, Gracie Allen, President of the United States, and mail it out right away.
Gracie, you're not president yet.
Well, I will be by the time this letter is delivered.
That's some letter.
And Bubbles, make 50,000 copies.
One for each candidate.
Yes.
I thought so, yes.
Bubbles, address the envelopes in girlish handwriting. Mark it personal and send it to their homes. I want their wives to read it, too.
50,000 copies. Well, it's a nice hunk of postage to throw away.
What do you mean, postage? I'll initial the corners of the envelopes, and they won't need stamps.
Frank, will you believe this? For a minute, I forgot that you were Postmaster General.
Well, that's life, I guess.
Yes, I guess
People
so.
forget,
Right.
you know.
Miss Allen, the reporters are here.
Oh, well, send them in.
The reporters?
Uh-huh.
This way, gentlemen.
Miss Allen, I'm Harry Crocker of the Examiner.
How do?
Matt Weinstock, Daily News.
How do?
Sean, Los Angeles Times.
How do?
Gracie, why are you shaking hands with your left hand?
Well, I'm saving my right hand for when I'm president.
How do?
How do?
Miss Allen, my newspaper wants to know just what your platform is.
Well, it's knotty pine trimmed with oak and inlaid with California redwood.
That's to match your head?
Yes.
I thought so, yes.
Miss Allen, what would be the first thing you would do if you were elected?
I put my daddy in the Senate.
Your daddy doesn't know anything about the Senate.
Oh, yeah, he's been making speeches from the floor for years.
He's still on the floor, I'll bet.
That's my daddy.
That's the kid, yeah.
Miss Allen, my city editor wants to know what your opinion is on capitalism versus the little man.
Oh, I don't know. I never go to wrestling matches.
Are you in favor of monopolies?
Oh, well, I don't play Monopoly. I like Mahjong better.
Well, what do you think of the neutrality bill?
Well, if we owe it, let's pay it.
Gracie, why don't you call this all? You know nothing about it. You haven't said one thing that's right.
Well, I'd rather be president than right.
Boys, there's no use trying to interview her.
Mr. Burns, will you stop balling her up?
I'm balling her up?
Yeah,
Quiet.
Miss Allen, all the other candidates are talking on how to bring back prosperity. Now, what's your point?
She doesn't even know what prosperity is.
I do, too. Prosperity is when business is good enough so that you can buy the things on credit that you can't afford anyway, and that way you can save enough money to pay cash for new things after they've taken back the things you've got on credit.
How are you doing, boys?
Miss Allen, would you recognize Russia?
Well, that's hard to say. You see, I meet so many people.
You don't have to meet them all on this program, do you?
What do you think of the British blockade?
Oh, we'll get by.
We will, Alan. Look, I say, George, I don't mind being referred to as British, but I do object to being called a blockade.
Boys, this is Ray Noble.
Hello. How do?
He looks like a pipe cleaner I once threw away.
Well, now, that's possible. Where did you throw me?
Cheerio.
Oh, cheerio. Miss Allen, what do you think of our national debt?
Well, we ought to be proud of it. It's the biggest in the world.
Boys, either go ahead or just go so that we can do our broadcast.
Quiet.
Quiet.
Yeah,
Quiet. Now, Miss Allen, how would you keep our gold reserve from shrinking?
Well, I'd wash it in luck.
Truman, maybe you can get these guys out.
Well, I'll try, George. Say, boys, I've got a bottle in my overcoat.
A bottle?
Scotch or rye?
High and sunny almond cream.
Thanks, Truman.
You're too late, Truman. I gave that bottle to my girl. She's got a couple of chaps I'm trying to get rid of.
Thanks, Frank.
Boys, this is Frank Parker, the Postmaster General.
He ought to be swell. He's got a face like an old-style 1-cent stamp.
It's a nice TL for you, Pinky.
Thanks.
Now, Miss Allen, just a few more questions.
Boys,
Is there anything
boys,
we can actually...
boys, are you through?
Not yet, Mr. Burns, but don't feel that you have to stick around on our account.
Well, this is the end. I'm going to call up the sponsor and explain the whole thing to him. I'm not going to lose my job.
Come on, boys, let's finish the interview.
Operator, get me long distance.
Hold the line.
Miss Allen, is there anything...
Now, please, boys. Mr. Burns is calling the sponsor.
Hey, this Noble guy looks very familiar. Mr. Noble, didn't I once see you in Yonkers?
I don't think so. I haven't worn a pair of Yonkers in years.
Long distance.
Get me Mr. Marvin of the Heinz Honey and Almond Cream Company in New York.
Hold the line.
Miss Allen, is there anything that you can actually promise the voters?
Oh, sure. I can promise voters that if I can't find a way to reduce the high cost of living, then we'll just have to do without it.
Here's your party.
Hello, Mr. Marvin.
Yes?
This is George Burns speaking.
Oh, yes. How are you?
Well, I just want to call you up and tell you that I have nothing to do with Gracie's running for president. I've been trying to do a broadcast, and all she's been doing is giving away political jobs.
Well, that's the president's privilege, and believe me...
Quiet. Let me get through talking. It's ridiculous, Mr. Marvin, making an orchestra leader an ambassador, making a tenor a postmaster general, and making an announcer a Supreme Court justice. It's not my doing, and I just want to tell you that I'm not going to stand for it.
Just a minute, Mr. Burns. Don't raise your voice to the Secretary of State.
Secretary of State! And here's a bit of handy advice.
Children love playing in the snow. But do you know how that cold wind and freezing slush can chap their hands and knees? They come indoors with cheeks as red as apples, looking so healthy and lovable. But the first thing you know, their tender skin feels so uncomfortable. And their little hands are so red and chapped, you feel possibly sorry for them. Now, it's easy to help guard against chapping in the first place. Train your youngsters to cream their hands and faces with Heinz before going out in the cold. Heinz Honey and Almond Cream is extra creamy, extra softening. Helps keep skin smooth and comfortable. Put a bottle of Heinz in the coat closet, ready to smooth on hands and faces and knees. Children love Heinz. It's so nice and fragrant, not sticky either. Just feels so grand and soothing. You can get Heinz Honey and Almond Cream at toilet goods counters in 10, 25, 50-cent sizes, or the big economy dollar size for family use.
And now Gracie will sing Chula Chihuahua. Sing it.
Agua caliente, I'll never forget. Agua caliente, there is where I bought a pet. A little toy, oh boy, my chihuahua, he is my pride and joy. How I love the promenade, the boulevard, walking my chihuahua. People stop to stare most everywhere when I'm walking my chihuahua. All the dogs are jealous because the fellas keep petting my chihuahua. Though he isn't much protection, that's why men show their affection for me. Beep, 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 beep. He goes woof, woof, woof.
Chula, chula.
Bow, bow, woo.
Bonita, bonita.
Woof, woof, woof.
Figurita, figurita.
In Mexico, it's I love you. Meet the moon above, I met my stupid love walking my chihuahua. If you're lonely, there is only one thing to do. Get a chihuahua. Walk this way. Hip, hip, hooray. Chula, chihuahua. Chihuahua, wah. Wah, 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 wah. Chula, chihuahua. See, see. Come and see the company that comes to see me and my chihuahua. Two-time is the time they come to two-time with me and my chihuahua. Dogs of noble pedigree are jealous of me and my chihuahua. But I prefer him to a Scotty because he's just a little naughty. I'm glad he's not a terrier because he makes life merrier. He's better than a setter because he's such a great go-getter. He's smarter than a poodle. He knows how to use his noodle. I'm my wonderful chihuahua.
Now you can enjoy both Heinz lotion in bottles and Heinz hand cream in jars. Those smart red and white jars contain the fluffiest, creamiest hand cream Heinz could make. Like the famous Heinz lotion, the new Heinz hand cream is quick softening for chapped hands. It comes in two sizes, 10 cents and 39 cents a jar.
Thanks, Truman. Well, Gracie, say good night.
No, wait. First, I want to thank Bill Coram for his lovely wire endorsing my campaign.
Well, good. Now say good night.
Well, good night. I'll see you in the White House.
Say good night.
Next Wednesday at this same time, over these same stations, George and Gracie and all the rest of us will be back again. Don't forget. And don't forget, for honeymoon hens, it's Heinz Honey and Almond Cream. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
If, by Rudyard Kipling, read for LibriVox.org by Phil Chenevert. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good, nor talk too wise. If you can dream, and not make dreams your master, if you can think, and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster, and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken, and stoop and build 'em up with worn-out tools. If you could make one heap of all your winnings, and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings, nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and, which is more, you'll be a man, my son. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
This is ChestertonRadio.com.
This is John Daly at Convention Hall, Richmond, Virginia. On this 25th day of June, 1788, the Virginia Ratifying Convention has been taken completely by surprise. Mr. Edmund Randolph, present governor of Virginia, has come out publicly in favor of the proposed federal constitution for the United States of America. As a delegate to this crucial convention, and up to now an avowed enemy of the Constitution, Governor Randolph has been a leader in the campaign against ratification. But he has just told reporters that he will speak and vote for ratification when the convention reconvenes to vote a few minutes from now. Thus, the Constitution, which would unite the 13 American states under a strong central government, has found a powerful friend in an unexpected quarter.
June 25th, 1788, the Convention Hall, Richmond, Virginia. You are there.
Virginia, key state in the plan to form the 13 original states into a united America, stands undecided, torn by dissension, and the Constitution hangs in the balance. CBS takes you back 160 years to the day that determined whether Americans could go forward from revolution and establish a stable central government. All things are as they were then, except for one thing. When CBS is there, you are there. You Are There, produced and directed by Robert Louis Cheon, is based on authentic historical facts and quotations. And now,
Virginia, the Richmond Convention Hall, and John Daly.
For a group of reporters hurriedly summoned to the governor's executive chamber a few minutes ago. Asked why he is turning from the party of Patrick Henry to the party of James Madison, Governor Randolph would not amplify his statement, saying only that he will give the reasons which prompted his move on the floor of the convention. And we hurried from that news conference to this microphone here on the convention floor to bring you this news. There's Mr. James Monroe, one of Mr. Patrick Henry's chief lieutenants, in the fight against ratification. Mr. Monroe.
Sir?
Sir, are you aware that Governor Randolph has gone over to the Federalist Party?
I am indeed.
Would you care to comment on it, Mr. Monroe?
Any remarks on Governor Randolph's strange conduct will come from Mr. Henry, the leader of our party.
But how do you think Governor Randolph's action will affect the vote on ratification, sir?
No comment, sir. No comment.
Mr. Monroe has turned away from the microphone. Our brief conversation, a mark of the confusion Governor Randolph's change of mind has produced here. Ned Kelmer has been analyzing the possibilities inherent in Governor Randolph's action and is ready now with his report. So over to our CBS headquarters booth here in Convention Hall and Ned Kelmer.
Governor Randolph's sudden allegiance to the Federalists may have a decisive effect on this convention. Roughly half of the delegates represent the cities, towns, and the Tidewater planters, and the other half come from the rural districts. Generally speaking, the planters and the businessmen are in favor of a national constitution. They are haunted by memories of Daniel Shays' rebellion in Massachusetts last year, and they want the Constitution as an instrument to end social chaos. On the other hand, the rural delegates, by and large, oppose the Constitution. At present, they're paying their debts with cheap state paper money, and they fear that national currency reforms would work to their disadvantage. But Governor Randolph has much influence and prestige among the country delegates. His change of position may very well swing the necessary votes from among them to carry the ratification. Thus, what happens here in Virginia today may decide the destiny of America. As you know, 9 states must ratify the proposed Constitution if it's to supplant the Articles of Confederation. 8 states have already ratified, and 4 others probably will not. If Virginia fails to ratify, the Constitution is likely to be doomed. And in that case, just a moment, Governor Randolph, at his executive mansion, has consented to grant our reporter, Don Hollenbeck, a brief interview before departing for this convention hall. So over to Don Hollenbeck at the governor's mansion.
Governor Randolph, sir, will you tell us why you've made this last-minute turn from the anti-Constitution party to the Federalists?
I have joined the Federalists because the anti-Constitution party has caused far too much delay on the pressing issue of a strong central government.
Why do you feel that we need a strong central government such as the proposed Constitution outlines?
It is imperative. The union of the states sags apart for want of it. Mr. Henry fails to see the danger. He occupies himself with legalistic assaults on various phases of the Constitution without realizing that the measure as a whole is desperately needed.
Well, Governor, do you endorse the proposed Constitution in toto without amendments?
No, I do not. I hope and trust that certain amendments will subsequently be adopted, such as a Bill of Rights and a clause absolutely forbidding the importation of Negro slaves. But all that can come later. Time is running out, and we cannot go on under the Articles of Confederation.
Thank you, Governor Randolph. This is Don Hollenbeck returning you now to John Daly on the floor of Convention Hall.
About 80 delegates are here now, and among them is Mr. Patrick Henry, former governor of Virginia, leader of the anti-Constitution party. He's wearing the ill-fitting wig and shabby black coat for which he is famous, and his hawk-like face is grim and forbidding. Mr. Henry! Sir, would you care to comment on Governor Randolph's repudiation of the anti-Constitution party?
Governor Randolph, bah! My opponents are welcome to him. He, like they, has turned his back on the revolution. He's divorced himself from the common people and embraced that hydra-headed monster property.
Well, do you mean to suggest, sir, that the Constitution favors the property-holding classes of the nation?
Yes. May I charge you? The worship of private property is implicit in every article of that infamous document. 1 year ago, sir, at Philadelphia, the Constitution stank so noisomely that Governor Randolph refused to sign it. Does it smell any sweeter now? No. The Constitution remains unchanged. It is Edmund Randolph who has changed. Randolph. An empty sail billowing with the wind from the Tidewater.
Are you implying, Mr. Henry, that Governor Randolph has yielded to pressure from the Tidewater plantation?
No. Randolph was born with a golden spoon in his mouth. He is rich. He has many slaves. He is also a politician, and as such, he flirted briefly with the ideas of liberty and equality. But the governor has seen the light. Property is the thing that counts.
Well, wouldn't you say, sir, that the protection of private property is important for the welfare of the country?
Important, yes. But human rights are equally important. And where, I ask you, where do you find one single mention of human rights in this Constitution that we are asked to ratify today?
But if that is so, Mr. Henry, how do you explain that 8 states have already ratified the Constitution?
Citizens of those 8 states would bargain away their heritage of freedom for a mess of pot. For my part, give me liberty, greatest of all earthly blessings. Give me that precious jewel, and you may take everything else.
Thank you, Mr. Henry. Here comes Mr. Madison. He's a small man and quiet of voice, but Mr. Madison yields to no man in intellectual capacity. Indeed, he is as famous for the logic of his arguments as Mr. Patrick Henry is for the brilliance of his oratory. Mr. Madison! Mr. Madison, Mr. Henry has just charged that the Constitution places property rights above human rights.
An interesting phrase. But then Patrick Henry is a master of interesting phrases. One of them helped to start our revolution. The trouble is, Mr. Henry is in a constant state of revolution. He should remember that the war is over and that his antagonists in this hall are not redcoats.
Yes, Mr. Madison, but what about his argument, sir?
Yes. Property rights above human rights. Well, now, suppose we examine that without the benefit of oratory, shall we? Mr. Henry would give you the impression that this is a struggle between the rich and the poor, the strong and the weak. The fact is, sir, that there are wealthy men who hate the Constitution and poor men who love it. The point is that all Americans, rich and poor, are in dire straits today because we have no strong central government. Mr. Henry poses as the shining knight of liberty. But where, sir, is liberty without order? Order is what we need, not at the expense of human rights, but precisely to render them secure.
Well, Mr. Madison, it's been reported that Mr. Thomas Jefferson, our ambassador to France, is against the Constitution.
That, sir, is a distortion. Mr. Jefferson is a friend of mine. I'm in constant correspondence with him. It is true that he disagrees with some aspects of the Constitution, but on the whole, he favors it. As a matter of fact, it would be well for Mr. Henry to remember there are other patriots of the war for independence who stand behind the Constitution. Not only Thomas Jefferson, but General Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Alexander Hamilton, John Dickinson, and a host of others.
Thank you, Mr. Madison.
A pleasure, sir.
Well, you've heard that the Constitution would be of great benefit to all Americans, and you've also heard that it will benefit only the rich. Outside this Virginia hall, there's a representative crowd waiting for the result of the vote, and Ken Roberts is out there. So let's switch to him and find out how these people feel about the Constitution. Go ahead, Ken Roberts.
In this crowd, judging by their dress, are people from every section and class of Virginia. I see men who are obviously planters, others who must be tradesmen, and a large number of farming folk. Some of them must have come a long way to be in Richmond at this fateful hour. Here, for instance, is a tall man wearing a fringed shirt and a coonskin cap. Where are you from, sir?
I be from Pineville, in the western district.
You're a delegate, sir?
Nay. I come here to watch all the delegates.
Oh?
I want to be sure they vote the way they're supposed to.
And how are the delegates of the Western District supposed to vote, Mr.
Holloway, Thomas Holloway, and they're still supposed to vote against the Constitution when Governor Randolph will be paying for turning his coat on us come next election.
Would you mind telling us why you're against the Constitution, Mr. Holloway?
See this bullet wound in my left arm? I received it 10 years ago, come September. I received it fighting to free Virginia from the rule of King George.
Don't you mean that you were fighting to free the United States?
Nay, to free Virginia.
But aren't you a citizen of the United States?
Nay, I'm a citizen of Virginia. We fought to be rid of the third George, and we want no fourth to take his place.
Then you think the Constitution would result in a king being imposed on the American states?
Aye.
What makes you think so?
If there be a Constitution, there'll be a president. If there be a president, he'll waste no time making himself into a monarch.
But, Mr. Holloway, it's generally agreed that if the Constitution is ratified, the first president of the United States will be General George Washington.
Aye. He'll waste no time making himself into a monarch.
Ridiculous. You think that General Washington, if elected, will establish a monarchy?
Aye. There'll be nothing in the Constitution to stop him if he's a mind to. And I reckon he'll have a mind to. Power would be spoiling a man, say I. There's always
Mr. Holloway has just been interrupted by a well-dressed man in the crowd.
Would you have the mind to be crying at me, Glenn?
Gentlemen, just a moment. sir, we'll be glad to have your opinions on General Washington and the Constitution after Mr. Holloway has
Speak for himself. I have no
Now,
question
Mr. Holloway,
in his opinion.
Mr. Holloway, you were just saying General Washington will make himself king if the Constitution is ratified.
Aye, and he could do it. According to the Constitution, the President would have his own standing army.
Yes, but wouldn't the army be subject to the decisions of the Federal Congress?
With a gun at its throat, what could the Congress do? He'll be making himself monarch, Congress or no.
Thank you, Mr. Holloway. Now, sir, now you have your opportunity.
He'll tell you now, he's an empty head, that.
Empty head, there you see, abuse, canard, that's the way with you rascals. You impute the most staggeringly bad to the patriots who framed the Constitution. You don't want the truth.
Don't want the truth.
You're a riot, troublemaker, that's all you are. The scum of the backwoods.
See, holding your tongue now, you value that empty head.
Please, gentlemen, we were discussing something else. Let's get back to the Constitution.
Yes, indeed, the Constitution. I predict, sir, that unless the Constitution is ratified, the merchants of this country will be ruined, wiped out utterly.
Are you a merchant, sir?
Yes, sir, I am. I am a merchant, sir. I trade in tobacco, fine Virginia leaf, sir. Ask anyone in Richmond, you'll find that Ralph Barker handles only the best.
And you feel that the Constitution, if ratified, would be a boon to business?
Absolutely, sir. Business is bad today. Oh, bad, very bad. And my warehouse is bursting with unsold tobacco. The country is in a depression. And it's because of the money situation. It's scandalous, absolutely.
Would you explain that, please, Mr. Barker?
Yes, you explain. I will if you will only give me a chance. My word, there are so many different kinds of money in circulation. It's like a man in that. Doubloons, pistoles, gold, Johannes's, English, French crowns, English guineas, Spanish dollars. Yes, and to cap it all, the states are issuing money that isn't worth the paper it's printed on. Now, how on earth can a merchant do business under such conditions?
It must be difficult.
Difficult? Why, it's impossible. It's confusion compounded into an unholy mess.
And you feel that the Constitution, if ratified, would restore order in interstate commerce and regulate the currency?
Yes, sir, I do. Of course I do. The Constitution specifically...
This is John Daly in Convention Hall. We have interrupted Ken Roberts because Governor Randolph has just come in. He entered by a side door to avoid the crowd outside. Now he is walking down the aisle, and the tension here is so thick one can literally feel it. Mr. Henry has just snubbed Governor Randolph, and the snub was unmistakable. His face pale, the governor has walked to his seat, sits down, shakes hands with Mr. Madison. Now the gavel sounds. Mr. Pendleton, president of the convention, is calling the delegates to order. The final debate will begin in a few moments. As you know, the resolution embodying the Constitution has already been debated clause by clause in the 3 weeks this convention has been in session. And now, Mr. Pendleton.
The ratifying convention is hereby declared to be officially convened. By previous agreement, the final speech in opposition to ratification will be made by Mr. Patrick Henry, and he will be followed by Mr. James Madison, who will speak in favor of ratification of the proposed federal Constitution. I now recognize the first speaker, Mr. Henry.
And Patrick Henry rises, walking slowly up the aisle. He's moving toward the front of the hall. Now he's mounting the rostrum. His hawk-like eyes under that ragged wig look out piercingly around the room, and they have come to rest on Governor Randolph. Mr. Henry stares at the governor now with an expression of, well, you might almost call it contempt, and now Mr. Henry is about to speak.
My concluding remarks in behalf of the anti-Constitution party, the party of liberty, will be brief. But I would first make a few observations on the conduct of one of the delegates. I am referring to none other than Governor Edmund Randolph. Last year in Philadelphia, Governor Randolph denounced the Constitution. It seems to me very strange that which was then the subject of his denunciation should today become the object of his praise. Something extraordinary must have happened to operate so great a change in his opinion.
Mr. President! Mr. President!
Governor Randolph is calling for the floor. He's been ruled out of order. Now, Mr. Henry.
I yield to the member. Let us hear what the honorable member has to say.
The honorable speaker hints that I have changed my opinions for some hidden and therefore discreditable reason.
I have no personal intention of offending anyone. I merely do my duty.
The gentleman smiles when he says that. His conduct is malicious.
and it is not compatible with the least shadow of friendship. Very well. If our friendship must fall, let it fall like Lucifer, never to rise again. Does the member accuse me of malicious behavior? I believe the meaning of my words is clear. Is the member prepared to back up his remarks with deeds? If the gentleman seeks satisfaction, he will find my second ready. I thank the gentleman for his willingness to render satisfaction. Mr. President, I request a short recess in order to arrange the details of a matter of honor.
This is unprecedented. However, due to the member's request is granted, I hereby declare a 5-minute recess.
Mr. Randolph and Mr. Henry are leaving the hall, no doubt to choose and confer with their seconds as is traditional in these affairs of honor among gentlemen. This is a startling turn of events, and we'll try and bring you the developments just as fast as we can. The floor here is a scene of confusion. The delegates are milling about, shouting and arguing, shaking their fists at each other, and from the look of things here, it would almost seem that there will be more affairs of honor out there on the floor of this convention hall unless this convention is called back into order, and very soon. And there's Mr. Pendleton. Mr. Pendleton, sir, will the session resume in spite of this conflict between Mr. Henry and Mr. Randolph?
Yes, I will reconvene in 5 minutes.
And the vote will be taken as scheduled, sir?
Certainly.
Do you have anything to say on that?
Not now, please.
All right, thank you, Mr. Pendleton. The debate will continue. The vote will be taken despite this dramatic interruption. As you know, Mr. Henry is one of the principal speakers, and he must be back before the convention can properly be reconvened. As I said before, the floor is a scene of confusion, and there is a chance there will be more of these affairs of honor unless the convention is indeed called back into session, and very soon. But now I've seen Ned Kelmer out there circulating quickly among the delegates to learn how Mr. Henry's attack on Governor Randolph will affect the vote. So let's go over to our CBS headquarters booth and Ned Kelmer.
Thanks. Well, on the basis of my brief conversations with the delegates just now, it's safe to say that Mr. Henry, by his open attack on Mr. Randolph, has restored the situation to what it was before the governor came out in favor of the Constitution. Yes, I'd say there's no doubt about that. The delegates from the rural districts admire forceful speech and prompt action. They saw it today, and no matter what outsiders may think of Mr. Henry's conduct, well, his action sits well with the country people. These rural delegates who might have been shaken by Governor Randolph's new allegiance to the Federalists now seem to be back in the anti-Constitution fold, definitely. And it does look as if the Constitution may fail of ratification. And now Mr. Pendleton has called the convention to order again, so back to John Daly on the convention floor.
The Republic itself.
The delegates are again seated. The convention has reconvened, and Mr. Henry has resumed the floor and is speaking on the resolution embodying the proposed federal constitution of the United States of America. Now let's listen to Mr. Patrick Henry.
Exclusion of the 4 remaining states. Congress, under this proposed constitution, would have a tyrant power, and more. It could lay whatever taxes it chooses. With a standing army, it could keep the people in submission. The president, if he should be ruthless and able, could make himself an absolute ruler. I would rather have a king, lords, and a House of Commons than a government replete with such insupportable evils. Gentlemen, my opponents ask you to surrender not only the sword and the purse, but the very scales of justice. Ratify this Constitution, and you place our state courts at the mercy of federal courts. A monstrous creation. I dread popular resistance to this proposed government. So vague, so indefinite, so ambiguous in its assurances of liberty and human rights. Let me warn you in the most emphatic terms of the dreadful effects which must ensue should the people resist. I beg, I beseech the delegates to search their consciences and vote nay on this resolution, lest they rouse the people to rebellion in defense of their God-given liberties.
Mr. Henry has left the rostrum, and Mr. Madison is coming up now to speak. He carries his hat in his hand. Now he's taking some slips of paper out of the hat. They are the notes for his address, and he's waiting for the convention to come to order.
The chair recognizes Mr. James Madison.
Mr. President,
Fellow delegates, I yield to no man in my respect for the previous speaker. Yet in these brief concluding remarks, I would point out that his objections to the Constitution arise out of misunderstanding. This is not strange because the form of government we are proposing is new, unique in the history of the world. Let the delegates, therefore, not measure it by outmoded standards. Mr. President, the American states have stirred the admiration of the world by setting up free governments under the pressure of war. How much more will they win admiration if they should be able peaceably to establish one central government when not cemented by common danger? But will the states achieve that goal? Suppose only 8 states ratify and Virginia refuses to become the 9th except on her own terms. Then even if the others agree to our terms, which is doubtful, every state must call new conventions to consider the amendments. There will be endless disagreements. Every state will be encouraged to offer its own amendments. Agreement will be even more difficult to reach than it was in Philadelphia. In short, Mr. President, if Virginia holds out today, the United States may never have a functioning central government. But if Virginia ratifies the Constitution, it may bring the most fortunate event in the history of mankind. I therefore respectfully submit that the honorable delegates vote yea on the resolution before us, the resolution containing the Constitution of the United States of America.
Mr. Madison replaces his notes in his hat and leaves the rostrum, and from the floor, many voices calling the question. Mr. Pendleton is raising his gavel.
The convention will now vote on the resolution embodying the proposed Constitution for the United States of America. The vote will be by a show of hands. A simple majority will decide. Those delegates who are in favor, those who wish to vote aye on the proposition, will raise their right hand.
Hands are going up all over the hall, and the tellers are moving about counting. A total of 166 votes will be cast. 84 are necessary to carry or defeat the resolution. And it seems now as if half the number of delegates here have their hands up, but it's impossible to tell exactly. However, it's going to be close. You can be sure of that. Very close. We'll know the result in a moment from the aye count. If it's 84 or over, the ayes will have it, and the Constitution will be ratified here in the Virginia Convention and will become the law of the land. The tellers have completed their count now and are moving up to report to the rostrum. They're at the rostrum. Mr. Pendleton is receiving their reports, checking the totals, and we'll know in a moment. Mr. Pendleton.
The tellers report in favor of the resolution, 89 votes.
The resolution The United States is now committed to a strong central government. We're to have a president, a Congress, a federal judiciary, a national army under the Constitution. I have a copy here in my hand, and its preamble begins, "We, the people of the United States, in order..."
June 25th, 1788, Virginia ratifies the Constitution and government of, by, and for the people begins.
The ratification of the Constitution was another broadcast in the series You Are There, produced and directed by Robert Louis Cheon. The program was written by Michael Sklar. Thomas Chalmers played Patrick Henry, Richard Waring was James Madison, Eric Dressler played Governor Randolph, and the cast included Carl Swenson, Chester Stratton, Bernard Lenrow, Guy Sorrell, and others. Footnote: The Virginia Convention debated and voted under the impression that it was the 9th necessary ratifying state. The 9th necessary state was actually New Hampshire. It had ratified 4 days earlier. Mr. Madison, Mr. Henry, and their colleagues did not know this because in those days news traveled slowly. Beginning next week, You Are There will be broadcast regularly over most of these stations at a new time, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for You Are There next week and thereafter. Next week,
November 7th, 1637, Puritan, New England. The trial of Anne Hutchinson. You Are There.
This is CBS, where 99 million people gather every week, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
This is Chesterton Radio, your home for podcasts of works by G.K. Chesterton, plus drama, comedy, mystery, science fiction, big bands, and much more. The soundtrack to your Chesterton day at chestertonradio.com.
There are people in most countries who would like to live in the Republic of the United States or the Dominion of Canada where that good Olga coal is sold. The citizens of our free countries are the envy of many people elsewhere because of the personal freedom which we have enjoyed. Why, then, doesn't every country adopt a form of free government? One answer is that, unfortunately, there are people and parties in many nations who are so greedy for power that they will sacrifice the freedom of their fellow countrymen to obtain power for themselves. History, even recent history, is replete with such instances. That is why the citizens of the Republic of the United States and the Dominion of Canada must be careful to recognize at its very beginning any movement to steal or limit their freedom. That is not always easy. The man who would enslave a free people doesn't begin by saying, "Now I'm going to be your dictator." Instead, he probably will claim that he is a devoted supporter of personal freedom, but all the while he will support policies that weaken and undermine personal freedom. Such a man will deny any totalitarian aims, but free citizens must not be deceived by such denials. Apparently, it is a cardinal principle of every sincere totalitarian that he is justified in lying, if such lies will advance his plans. In these times, no public figure and no party or organization supporting such a person can be accepted without careful consideration. Every public figure and organization must be carefully scrutinized, and if their real aims are to limit or to destroy our freedom as individuals, they must be opposed and defeated.
This is Chesterton Radio, the true, good, and beautiful at chestertonradio.com.
Hello, my friends, the Heinz Honey and Almond Cream Program.
Vote for Gracie. Vote for Gracie. She's the best little skipper in the land. Vote for Gracie. Vote for Gracie. Won't you please give this little girl a hand?
Starring George Burns and Heinz Honey, Gracie Allen, with Frank Parker, Ray Noble and his orchestra, and Truman Bradley speaking.
Vote for Gracie. To win the presidential race.
100 million strong, that's right, you can't go wrong. Vote for Gracie.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well.
What are you laughing at?
This is a comedy program, isn't it?
That's right.
Well?
But Gracie, the audience is supposed to laugh.
Oh, well, then do me a favor and laugh, folks. Come on, a little louder. Oh, come on, let's scream, everybody.
Wait a minute.
No, we can only find a joke that fits that laugh and have something.
You said it. Come in.
Burns and Allen program?
Yes. What are you laughing at?
I was a little late getting here.
Well, that takes care of the first joke.
Yeah. Why, George, you look like a breath of spring. That's a beautiful serge suit you have on.
Oh, thanks.
You look like a picture.
Really?
Yes, the shining hour.
Well, I get compliments on this suit wherever I go. And I've worn it out in a lot of places.
Yeah, I can see the places.
You can even ask Frank Parker. I'm considered a very smart dresser. Isn't that right, Frankie?
That's right.
There you are.
To dress on $10 a year, you've got to be smart.
How did I get into this mess?
Walking up 2 flights.
Let me tell you something.
Hey, George, what do you do with your old clothes?
He wears them.
This happens to be an English import.
Say, it does look a little like an Eton jacket.
Eton? What Eton?
Moth-eaten.
Go away.
Say, George, do you know what your suit really looks like?
What?
It looks like it's going steady with Bing Crosby's shirt.
Well, I really resent that because Crosby's shirt is really from Dixie.
George, stop worrying. A suit like that is nothing to sneeze in, and furthermore...
Quiet. Let's talk about something else.
All right. But don't ask me about my campaign.
Believe me, I won't.
I've been so busy with my campaign, I haven't even had time to be elected.
But we're not going to talk about it.
No, I'm not even going to think about it.
Good.
If I think about it, I'll talk about it. And I hate to talk about anything I've got to think about.
You're telling me...
The more I think about it, the madder I get. Imagine asking the next president of the United States to pay cash for a thing like that.
Pay cash?
Yes. They wouldn't even take the Supreme Court as a credit reference.
Well, who wanted this cash?
The conductor on the bus.
He was probably a Hoover man.
I was on government business, too.
Government business?
Yes, I was on my way down to get my daddy's relief check.
Why doesn't your daddy get his own relief check?
He can't. He's picketing the Swiss embassy.
He's picketing the Swiss embassy?
Yes. That Swiss cheese gives him hiccups.
Well, that wouldn't happen if we ran the hole through a meat grinder. And that Swiss...
Hey, Gracie, look what I've got for you.
Why, Ray Noble.
Yes, I saw it in the window, and it just seemed to be the real you.
Oh, thanks. I'll unwrap it. Oh, Ray.
Oh, what is it?
Why, Ray, you shouldn't have done it. But it's just the thing I wanted. I was born in June, so it's simply perfect.
Well, what is it?
Bubble gum.
Ray, how did you happen to pick that out?
Well, George, oh boy, I've been around. I know women.
What did it cost you?
It cost me $46, and I got it at Magnum's.
Well, I just don't know how to thank you, Ray, but I'll certainly chew it next to my heart.
This isn't a romance. This is a contortionist act.
Oh, Gracie, I'm going over there to write a poem about you.
Under the spreading chestnut tree?
No, under the piano.
Well, so long, fellow. Come in.
Remember me, Mr. Boynes? I'm the tailor.
Oh, yes, I remember. Yes, sir.
I was listening on your broadcast, and I heard them making comical remarks about your suit, and it hurts me. Because the suit cost $125.
See, wise guys, and you thought I was cheap. Go ahead, Adrian. Tell them about the other suit that cost $125.
Thank you, yes. And an overcoat he bought for $150.
There you are.
He bought 2 suits and an overcoat for $410. This was 2 years ago. And I've yet to see a nickel.
Get out of here before I kick you out.
You and who else?
The door is closed.
What am I, a genius?
Will you get out of here?
See, George, if you didn't want to pay him, you could have given him one of your checks.
Oh, yeah? I paid for those clothes 2 years ago. Hello?
You should live so.
That's the last time I'll ever get a suit from him.
You said it.
Gracie, cheap. I'm not cheap. Didn't I take you to Cyril's restaurant the other night?
Uh-huh.
Well, what do you think that cost?
Oh, $30,000 without the awning in front.
That pheasant, wild rice, endive salad, crepe Suzettes, all that food went into a pretty little figure.
Oh, well, thanks, and I've got a neat little face, too.
Oh, don't worry, George. You can get credit any place. Why, everybody says you've got an honest face.
Oh, thanks, Pinky.
Everybody that looks at you says, honest, is that a face?
I'd just as soon not hear about my face or my suit.
No, and I'm not going to mention my presidential campaign either.
Well, good.
On the top of all my campaign worries, in the middle of the night, my mother gave out the biggest scream you ever heard.
What happened?
What happened? Her feet turned black.
Turned black? What did you do?
What did we do? We sent for a doctor.
What did the doctor do?
He just took off her stockings and we all went back to sleep again.
Well,
Maybe you've got spring fever these days. You'd probably like to play hooky from washing the dishes. No one knows better than you how dishwater makes your hands feel, so puffy and dry. But listen, the moment you finish the dishes, give your hands the creamy comfort of Heinz Honey and Almond Cream. Heinz is so nice and fragrant, it feels good and soothing to tender hands. It's the extra creamy, extra softening emulsion that contains 2 extra vitamins, A and D. You know what? Every creamy drop of Heinz goes right to work, helping to ease away that harsh, chapped look, coaxing back a lovable, smooth feeling. Treat your hands to Heinz Honey and Almond Cream every day to help keep them soft and thrilling in spite of rough household jobs. You can smooth Heinz on your hands as you work, you know. It isn't a bit sticky. In fact, thousands of women say they love Heinz as a powder base, too. It goes on so smoothly and helps your powder cling lightly with a soft, youthful-looking bloom. You can get Heinz Honey and Almond Cream at your favorite toilet goods counter in several convenient sizes. Start using Heinz, Hinds, tonight for soft, romantic, kissable hands. Now, Frank Parker.
Thanks, Prue. From the musical production The King Steps Out, I'm going to sing Stars in My Eyes, written by Fritz Kreisler and Dorothy Field. My song has wings, eternal springs, no longer a dream. My cheeks aglow, emotions flow, like sunlight on a stream. My step is gay, along my way, the roses bloom at my feet. My love's a rain, my being changed, my life is now complete. Stars in my eyes tell how I feel, for this tender passion is real. I am loved, I am blessed, all that eager longing is laid to rest. Stars in my eyes will always shine when your heart beats with mine. Till your love shall be thine, there'll be stars in my eyes. Stars in my eyes will always shine when your heart beats. Stars in my eyes till your love for me dies. There'll be stars in my
Grand.
Listen, everybody, I forgot to tell you that at my convention in Omaha, the women are wearing old-fashioned calico dresses, and the men are wearing suits like they wore back in 1870.
But, Gracie, where can I get a suit like that?
Oh, it's George Lennon, the suit you're wearing.
This is not an 1870 suit.
Oh, don't answer it, the tailor.
Don't I know?
And another thing, don't forget, you boys have to grow beards for the Omaha convention.
Is it compulsory?
No, it's apple.
Apple?
Yeah.
What's apple?
The pie I had last night.
Gracie, the whole thing doesn't fit.
Well, that's what you get for walking up 2 flights.
Stop with that suit.
Say, Gracie, if I raise a beard, it'll cover my personality.
Is that bad?
No, it's apple.
Will you get out of here?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. If it wasn't for a beard, my aunt wouldn't be able to keep my uncle home nights.
What does that got to do with it?
Oh, she winds his beard up in a clothes wringer and hides the handle.
Yes, a thing like that is infallible.
No, it's apple.
Well, folks, we finally got a piece of plot on the show.
Say, Ray, how is the poem coming?
Oh, pretty well, Gracie. I'll read what I've got written so far. The title is Spring is to Sing, But I Sigh, Oh My.
Oh, that's beautiful, Ray.
Isn't it?
Yes, nice title for seed catalog.
Well, here's the poem. A day in spring is like a rose, and a rose is like a honeybee, and a bee can sting you with his nose, but only God can make a tree.
Is that all?
Oh, no.
Oh, there's more.
Yes. A tree is like the stars on high, except it's in the ground, and stars are like your bluish eyes, except your eyes are brown.
Look, Ray, where are you trying to go with this?
Well, old boy, I'm trying to get I Love You, Gracie into the poem, but I can't seem to make it rhyme.
That must be difficult.
No, it's apple.
Go away. Go away.
Say, Say, George, the next time I see Shakespeare, I'll tell him about Ray Noble's talent.
This may surprise you, but he's dead.
So is Shakespeare.
Well, that's a nice TL for Ray.
Hello, Gracie. Oh, hello, Bubbles. Did you get the plane tickets for Dallas? Yes, and did you hear the good news? No. I just got an offer from the Group Theater in New York. The Group Theater? What do they want you to play? The Group.
The group. Plane tickets? What are they for? Where are you going?
Oh, this Friday I'm flying to Dallas to make a speech at the Variety Club get-together. Well, Gracie, I'm sorry, but they won't let you take your kangaroo Laura on the plane. Oh, isn't that too bad? And she had her bag all packed.
Dallas will certainly be disappointed.
Oh, no, they won't, George. I'm taking you.
Well, thank you. Why don't you take Bubbles with you to Dallas?
I can't go. I've got to make a guest appearance on a radio program.
What program?
Me the People.
Me the People?
Yes.
Either that or Hippie Lobby. I finally have the one line and they tried to kill it.
I've got to finish that typing.
Oh, did she go? Well, you're gone. You're gone. Go already.
Oh, you should have been over the house the other night. Bubbles had a date with Don Wilson, and you should have seen the three of them when they went out together. There was more excitement.
The three of them went out?
Bubbles, Don, in the front of the house.
Those kids really go places and through things.
Say, George, I must tell you this. It's very amusing.
Well, Truman, we can use something like that on the program.
Yeah, well, the other night at the party,
yes,
I got up and told a very funny story.
Uh-huh.
Where the guests surprised when I didn't mention Heinz Honey and Almond Cream.
You didn't mention?
No. And when I got to the punchline of the story, it really knocked them for a loop. Because I didn't say a word about how Heinz Honey and Almond Cream will make rough red hams smooth, white, and soft, and thrilling to touch.
I see. And where was this party?
At the sponsor's house.
Well, the next time you tell a story, don't mention the hand cream either.
Oh, I won't, George. That would kill the joke.
And you're just the guy who can do it, too.
Now, George, is that nice?
No, Apple. I finally got it. Dr. Cyclops in the house.
Oh, Gracie, I've rewritten my poem, and it's much better now.
Good.
Yes, listen. A robin has a breast of fiery red, and so has a bowl of chili. But chili has no feathers on its head, so it must feel rather silly.
Oh, Ray, that's good.
Yeah, but it still doesn't rhyme with I love you, Gracie.
No, George, but it's getting closer.
Oh, I think so. It certainly is. Getting closer.
Hello, I'm Sunny Gracie Allen speaking. Yes, I'm still running for president. What? Do I think farmers should be subsidized? Well, sure, if you can do it where it won't show.
Gracie, will you guarantee that?
No, I'll just have to take my word for it.
Yes, take your own word for
Well,
it.
say that again, please. Oh, how would I take care of emergency relief? Well, I'd just build more gas stations. What? Oh, thank you. And I think you're great presidential timber, too. Goodbye.
Who was that?
Charlie McCarthy.
Charlie McCarthy. No wonder you're such a big hit at the Palace Hotel in San Francisco. It's a pleasure.
Gracie, I think I've got it.
Well, I always knew you had it, but I didn't know where.
Ray, I just gave you a compliment.
Oh, thanks, old boy. I'll smoke it later. But first, I want Gracie to hear my poem.
Yeah, but don't drop the ashes on the rug.
Well, here we go. If I could sing like a meadowlark and lay 2 eggs of blue, I'd rather be just a silkworm and knit 2 socks for you. I'm inspired.
Here, take my handkerchief. It is rather warm in here.
Ray, did that come out of your own head?
Oh, rather.
Sort of a wood carving.
Well, I put it over.
I thought so, yeah.
Say, Gracie, I just finished typing that speech you're going to make at Dallas. Already? Why, Bubbles, it only took you 3 days. Well, you see, every time I got to the end of the line and heard the typewriter bell, I went out to lunch.
Don't I know?
Oh, yeah. Let me have it. Oh, and boys.
Yeah.
Now, I want you boys to tell me what you really think of the speech.
We'll be glad to do it.
Hello, everybody. I'm glad to be back in Dallas. And before I go any further, I want to announce that all promises in this speech are fictitious, and any similarities to persons living like George Burns is purely coincidental.
I'm not dead.
You want to bet?
Give me odds.
Wake up, America. Your country needs me. So pop out of bed. Mom out of bed,
Yeah,
too.
everybody out of bed.
come to the aid of a certain little party, if you know who I mean.
We have an idea, yes.
I think I know what you mean.
It's our catching on week this
Yes.
week. We know it.
This country is purely utilitarian. Are there any questions?
Gracie, what does utilitarian mean?
Are there any answers? Then I'll continue.
Yeah, continue. It'll be fine.
It's true that this is a baby's country, and every baby needs a change.
Is that true?
My political rivals say that what this country needs is more milk for the babies without delay. They say, let's take the bull by the horns. Well, that's foolish. They could never get milk that way.
I don't think so. Although I'll try it.
Fellow voters, what this country needs is plenty. And even though it's impossible, I'll be glad to do it. Hello?
Hooray!
Thanks.
What was that?
My friends, today millions of people are living who will never do it again.
Hooray.
Millions are being born for the first time.
You've got something there, sister.
And millions are doing nothing because it's the best offer they've had this week. And when you listen to the radio every 10 minutes, what do you hear?
My way is the spry way.
Quiet, Angela.
If you want an honest president, don't forget Gracie Allen on Election Day. I've never stolen a nickel, and all I want is a chance. Thank you.
Hey, you know, a speech like that is even bigger than Don Wilson.
Oh, you mean Fatty?
Yes, Tiny, Fatty, yes. That's what I mean.
So, Gracie, I loved your speech, especially where you mentioned Heinz Honey and Almond Cream.
Well, Truman, she didn't mention Heinz Honey and Almond Cream.
But I did, yeah.
Well,
and a big boy, too.
How'd you like it, Vicky?
Well, Gracie, I don't think it fits.
You don't?
Well, what can you expect? He walked up 2 flights.
Frank, just exactly. What's the matter with my suit?
Well, I don't know, George. It's not the color because pale fudge looks good on you.
Thanks.
It's not the fit because, George, that's the way you're built.
Well, that's nice.
It's not the style because those suits may come back again.
Yeah. Then what is it, Frank? Jealousy?
No, it's Apple, and I'll see you later.
I think I'll go get myself run over.
Oh, don't mind him, George. Frank, I think you've got a lot of nerve to say things like that. Someday you may be old and worn out like George's suit, too.
Well, now I feel better. Why?
Hello? Oh, how are you? It's Georgie Jessel.
Georgie Jessel?
Yes, I read it in the papers, Georgie, and congratulations. But I thought you were going to get married Friday. Oh, your wife made you wait till Saturday? Oh, there's no school Saturday.
How do you like that? And I didn't think Jessel went to school.
I say, Gracie, I made a new start with my poem, and I think it's much better now.
Oh, good.
Here it is. If I had the wings of a butterfly, I could flutter here and there. A butterfly never has to shave, for it has no whiskers anywhere.
Ray, if you're trying to rhyme, come in.
Good evening, Miss Allen. Remember me? I was here last week. I'm the census enumerator.
Oh, well, I'm glad to see you again.
I just heard a choice bit of gossip, and I can't keep it to myself any longer.
Well, I'm sorry, but we're not interested in other people's affairs. What they do is their own business.
Atta girl.
Their secrets belong to them, and it's no concern of ours. What did you hear?
Well, I don't know whether I should say anything or not, but that woman who lives around the corner from you.
Oh, you mean Mrs. Hemingway,
Yes, Mrs. Hemingway.
Oh, it's so funny. I always forget the second name.
Well, my dear, it seems... How far does this program go?
To New York City.
Good. I wouldn't want this to go any further.
Well, I wish this didn't go any further.
Mrs. Hemingway's husband.
Which one?
Which one? How many husbands has she got?
George, don't be nosy. Go ahead, mister.
Well, it seems that every time he goes to San Francisco...
Yes?
He doesn't go to San Francisco.
No?
No.
Oh, isn't that just like a man?
Yes.
Well, tell me all about it. When he goes to San Francisco where he doesn't go, where does he go?
Oakland.
Really?
Yes. Fortunately for Mrs. Hemingway, Sally Rand is a very good friend of the family.
Well, that's a better than his cat.
What's going on here? I thought all census information was strictly confidential.
Oh, poor Mrs. Hemingway. All the time that her husband is away, she does nothing but pace the floor.
No.
Yes, every night at the Coconut Grove.
You know his secretary, that beautiful little blonde?
Oh, you mean that pretty one who always leaves lipstick on his collar?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, she's a wonderful typist.
Yes. Probably takes 120 kisses a minute.
But it's too bad about her shorthand.
What's the matter with her shorthand?
Well, his wife's gloves won't fit her.
Well, I've got to run along.
Wait a minute, before you go, the house that the Hemingways live in, is that a one-story house or a two-story house?
Please, Mr. Burns, how dare you? We census takers are pledged to secrecy. Good day.
Where did you meet him?
Oh, isn't he cute? When I'm elected, I'm going to give him a much better job.
Is that so?
Yes, in the Secret Service.
As an undercover man, and he can stay there.
At last I've got the poem, Gracie. Here it is. When springtime knocks upon my soul, my heart sings like a joyous rabbit. But rabbits don't appreciate love, so then it's just another habit.
Oh, there's no use going on. There's no way to make that rhyme. It's absolutely impossible to get a rhyme with birds and bees and skies of blue above you. You can write and write and write and write, but you'll never rhyme, Gracie, I love you. I did it.
You did it.
Once more, an opportunity for you to get a copy of Gracie's campaign song, Vote for Gracie. Everybody's humming it and wants it. Now, all you have to do is this. Listen. Just write your name and address on the back of a Heinz Honey and Almond Cream carton. Send one carton of the 25-cent size or one of the 50-cent size or $1 size carton. Or, if you use the 10-cent size, send 2 cartons. Address your envelope to Gracie Allen, Hollywood, California. And say, when you buy your Heinz, you'll find out what an extra creamy lotion can do for your hands. Why, even one application of this fine, fragrant lotion helps make chapped hands feel softer, look smoother right away. Heinz contains 2 vitamins, too, vitamins A and D. Use Heinz regularly for soft, thrilling honeymoon hands, the kind of hands he wants to hold. You can get Heinz Honey and Almond Cream at any toilet goods counter. Get Heinz tonight. And send the Heinz carton tomorrow, sure, to Gracie Allen for your copy of her dizzy campaign song, Vote for Gracie. Address your envelope to Gracie Allen, Hollywood, California.
And now Gracie will sing Sweet Potato Piper.
Oh, well, I'm dedicating my song to the members of the Axar Ben who are holding their banquet in Omaha tonight.
Oh, good.
Do you remember Yuba who played the tuba and made the rumba a popular beat? The peanut vendor was a solid sender, not to mention pickle or tea. Of course you've heard of Sammy from Alabama, the old accordion man. Well, while we're on the subject, do you know what the green began, do you? Music soothes the savage, that's a well-known phrase. But your heart becomes full of carol drums when the sweet potato piper plays. Go on, throw your hat up, shout a few hoorays, 'cause you can't hold back, you're a jumping jack when the sweet potato piper plays. Though it's not a magic flute, there's a fascinating truth. It's not exactly beautiful. It's sort of like an, I don't know, I guess you call it sweet. Sunbeams try new dances, songers sound their A's, and the world joins in with a great big grin when the sweet potato piper plays. Now when you vote for Gracie, that's me, here's what she okays. Cast another vote for the plate of notes that the sweet potato piper plays. Comes the inauguration, it will start a craze. Watch the diplomats picking up their spats when the sweet potato piper plays. At the presidential ball, we won't have the band at all. Now we'll simply have this silly type, a tootin' on the scooter and a piping on his pipe. All the boys in Congress soon will shout his praise. All the world joins in with a great big grin when the sweet potato piper plays.
Don't forget, there are 2 Heinz preparations for your hands. One is the famous Heinz lotion that pours from the bottle. The other is the brand new Heinz hand cream in jars. Like the famous lotion itself, this new Heinz hand cream helps to give you softer, smoother hands in spite of housework or outdoor work.
Good night.
Good night.
We'll all be back again next Wednesday night at the same time. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Tonight, the Columbia Workshop, because of the approaching national elections and the attention they have focused on the supreme law of our land,
presents sections of the Constitution of the United States. It is our hope that listening to the Constitution will stimulate in all of us a desire to know that document more intimately.
The Constitution of the United States, September 17th, 1787. The Preamble.
We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States of America.
Article 1, Section 1.
All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and House of Representatives.
Section 2. The House of Representatives shall be composed of members chosen every second year by the people of the several states. No person shall be a representative who shall not have attained the age of 25 years and been 7 years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state in which he shall be chosen.
Representatives and direct taxes shall be apportioned among the several states which may be included within this Union according to their respective numbers. The actual enumeration shall be made within 3 years after the first meeting of the Congress of the United States, and within every subsequent term of 10 years in such manner as they shall by law direct. When vacancies happen in the representation from any state, the executive authority thereof shall issue writs of election to fill such vacancies. The House of Representatives shall choose their Speaker and other officers, and shall have the sole power of impeachment.
Section 3, modified by the 17th Amendment. The Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, elected by the people thereof for 6 years, and each senator shall have 1 vote. Immediately after they shall be assembled in consequence of the first election, they shall be divided as equally as may be into 3 classes. The seats of the senators of the first class shall be vacated at the expiration of the 2nd year, of the 2nd class at the expiration of the 4th year, and of the 3rd class at the expiration of the 6th year, so that 1/3 may be chosen every 2nd year. No person shall be a senator who shall not have attained to the age of 30 years and been 9 years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state for which he shall be chosen. The Vice President of the United States shall be the President of the Senate, but shall have no vote unless they be equally divided. The Senate shall have the sole power to try all impeachments. When sitting for that purpose, they shall be on oath or affirmation. When the President of the United States is tried, the Chief Justice shall preside, and no person shall be convicted without the concurrence of 2/3 of the members present. Section 4, modified by the 20th Amendment.
The Congress shall assemble at least once in every year, and such meeting shall begin at noon on the 3rd day of January, unless they shall by law appoint a different day.
Section 5.
Each House shall be the judge of the elections, returns, and qualifications of its own members, and the majority of each shall constitute a quorum to do business. But a smaller number may adjourn from date to day, and may be authorized to compel the attendance of absent members in such manner and under such penalties as each House may provide. Each House shall keep a journal of its proceedings, and from time to time publish the same, excepting such parts as may in their judgment require secrecy. And the yeas and nays of the members of either House on any question shall, at the desire of 1/5 of those present, be entered on the journal.
Section 6. The senators and representatives shall receive a compensation for their services to be ascertained by law and paid out of the Treasury of the United States. They shall, in all cases except treason, felony, and breach of the peace, be privileged from arrest during their attendance at the session of their respective houses and in going to and returning from the same.
and for any speech or debate in either house, they shall not be questioned in any other place. No senator or representative shall, during the time for which he was elected, be appointed to any civil office under the authority of the United States, which shall have been created, or the emoluments whereof shall have been increased during such time. And no person holding any office under the United States shall be a member of either house during his continuance in office.
Section 7. All bills for raising revenue shall originate in the House of Representatives, but the Senate may propose or concur with amendments as on other bills. Every bill which shall have passed the House of Representatives and the Senate shall, before it become a law, be presented to the President of the United States. If he approve, he shall sign it, but if not, he shall return it with his objections to that House in which it shall have originated, who shall enter the objections at large on their journal and proceed to reconsider it. If after such reconsideration 2/3 of that House shall agree to pass the bill, it shall be sent, together with the objections, to the other House, by which it shall likewise be reconsidered. And if approved by 2/3 of that House, it shall become a law. If any bill shall not be returned by the President within 10 days, Sundays excepted, after it shall have been presented to him, the same shall be a law in like manner as if he had signed it, unless the Congress by their adjournment prevent its return, in which case it shall not be a law. Section 8.
The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises, to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. But all duties, imposts, and excises shall be uniform throughout the United States.
To borrow money on the credit of the United States.
To regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states, and with the Indian tribes.
To establish an uniform rule of naturalization and uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies throughout the United States.
To coin money, regulate the value thereof and of foreign coin, and fix the standard of weights and measures.
To provide for the punishment of counterfeiting the securities and current coin of the United States.
To establish post offices and post roads.
To promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries.
To constitute tribunals inferior to the Supreme Court.
To define and punish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas and offenses against the law of nations.
To declare war, grant letters of marque and reprisal, and make rules concerning captures on land and water.
To raise and support armies, but no appropriation of money to that use shall be for a longer term than 2 years.
To provide and maintain a navy.
To make rules for the government and regulation of the land and naval forces.
To provide for calling forth the militia to execute the laws of the Union. To press insurrections and repel invasions.
To provide for organizing, arming, and disciplining the militia, and for governing such part of them as may be employed in the service of the United States, reserving to the states, respectively, the appointment of the officers, and the authority of training the militia according to the discipline prescribed by Congress.
To exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district, not exceeding 10 miles square, as may, by cession of particular states and the acceptance of Congress, become the seat of the government of the United States, and to exercise like authority over all places purchased by the consent of the legislature of the state in which the same shall be, for the erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings, and
to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers, and all other powers vested by this Constitution in the government of the United States, or in any department or officer thereof.
Section 9, modified by the 16th Amendment.
The privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless, when in cases of rebellion or invasion, the public safety may require it.
No bill of attainder or ex post facto law shall be passed.
The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes on incomes from whatever source derived, without apportionment among the several states, and without regard to any census or enumeration.
No tax or duty shall be laid on articles exported from any state.
No preference shall be given by any regulation of commerce or revenue to the ports of one state over those of another, nor shall vessels bound to or from one state be obliged to enter
clear or pay duties in another. No money shall be drawn from the Treasury but in consequence of appropriations made by law, and a regular statement and account of the receipts and expenditures of all public money shall be published from time to time.
Article 2, Section 1, modified by the 12th Amendment.
The executive power shall be vested in a President of the United States of America. He shall hold his office during the term of 4 years, and together with a Vice President, chosen for the same term, be elected as follows.
Each state shall appoint, in such manner as the legislature thereof may direct, a number of electors equal to the whole number of senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled in the Congress. But no senator or representative or person holding an office of trust or profit under the United States shall be appointed an elector.
The electors shall meet in their respective states and vote by ballot for President and Vice President, one of whom at least shall not be an inhabitant of the same state with themselves. They shall name in their ballots the person voted for as President, and in distinct ballots the person voted for as Vice President. And they shall make distinct lists of all persons voted for as President, and of all persons voted for as Vice President, and of the number of votes for each, which lists they shall sign and certify, and transmit, sealed, to the seat of the government of the United States, directed to the President of the Senate. The President of the Senate shall, in the presence of the Senate and House of Representatives, open all the certificates, and the votes shall then be counted. The person having the greatest number of votes for President shall be the President, if such number be a majority of the whole number of electors appointed. And if no person have such majority, then from the persons having the highest numbers, not exceeding 3, on the list of those voted for as President, the House of Representatives shall choose immediately, by ballot, the President. But in choosing the President, the votes shall be taken by states, the representation from each state having 1 vote. A quorum for this purpose shall consist of a member or members from 2/3 of the states, and a majority of all the states shall be necessary to a choice.
And if the House of Representatives shall not choose a president, whenever the right of choice shall devolve upon them, before the 4th day of March next following, then the Vice President shall act as President, as in the case of the death or other constitutional disability of the President. The person having the greatest number of votes as Vice President shall be the Vice President, if such number be a majority of the whole number of electors appointed. And if no person have a majority, then from the 2 highest numbers on the list, the Senate shall choose the Vice President. A quorum for the purpose shall consist of 2/3 of the whole number of senators, and a majority of the whole number shall be necessary to a choice. But no person constitutionally ineligible to the office of President shall be eligible to that of Vice President of the United States.
The Congress may determine the time of choosing the electors, and the day on which they shall give their votes, which day shall be the same throughout the United States. No person, except a natural-born citizen, or a citizen of the United States at the time of the adoption of this Constitution, shall be eligible to the office of President. Neither shall any person be eligible to that office who shall not have attained to the age of 35 years and been 14 years a resident within the United States.
In case of the removal of the President from office, or of his death, resignation, or inability to discharge the powers and duties of the said office, the same shall devolve on the Vice President, and the Congress may by law provide for the case of removal, death, resignation, or inability, both of the President and Vice President, declaring what officer shall then act as President, and such officer shall act accordingly until the disability be removed or a President shall be elected. The President shall, at stated times, receive for his services a compensation which shall neither be increased nor diminished during the period for which he shall have been elected, and he shall not receive within that period any other emolument from the United States or any of them.
Before he enter on the execution of his office, he shall take the following oath or affirmation. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States, and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Section 2. The President shall be Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militia of the several states when called into the actual service of the United States. He may require the opinion in writing of the principal officer in each of the executive departments upon any subject relating to the duties of their respective offices, and he shall have power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. He shall have power, by and with the advice and consent of the Senate, to make treaties, provided 2/3 of the senators present concur. And he shall nominate and, by and with the advice and consent of the Senate, shall appoint ambassadors, other public ministers and consuls, judges of the Supreme Court, and all other officers of the United States whose appointments are not herein otherwise provided for, and which shall be established by law. But the Congress may, by law, vest the appointment of such inferior officers as they think proper in the President alone, in the courts of law, or in the heads of departments.
Section 3. He shall from time to time give to the Congress information of the State of the Union, and recommend to their consideration such measures as he shall judge necessary and expedient. He may, on extraordinary occasions, convene both houses or either of them, and in case of disagreement between them with respect to the time of adjournment, he may adjourn them to such time as he shall think proper. He shall receive ambassadors and other public ministers. He shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed, and shall commission all the officers of the United States.
Section 4. The President, Vice President, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors.
Article 3, Section 1.
The judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court and in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. The judges, both of the Supreme and inferior courts, shall hold their offices during good behavior, and shall at stated times receive for their services a compensation which shall not be diminished during their continuance in office.
Section 2, modified by the 11th Amendment.
The judicial power shall extend to all cases in law and equity arising under this Constitution, the laws of the United States, and treaties made or which shall be made under their authority. To all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers, and consuls. To all cases of admiralty and maritime jurisdiction. To controversies to which the United States shall be a party. To controversies between two or more states. Between citizens of different states. Between citizens of the same state claiming lands under grants of different states. The judicial power of the United States shall not be construed to extend to any suit in law or equity commenced or prosecuted against one of the United States by citizens of another state or by citizens or subjects of any foreign state. The trial of all crimes, except in cases of impeachment, shall be by jury, and such trial shall be held in the state where the said crimes shall have been committed. But when not committed within any state, the trial shall be at such place or places as the Congress may by law have directed.
Section 3. Treason against the United States shall consist only in levying war against them, or in adhering to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort. No person shall be convicted of treason unless on the testimony of 2 witnesses to the same overt act, or on confession in open court. The Congress shall have power to declare the punishment of treason, but no attainder of treason shall work corruption of blood or forfeiture except during the life of the person attainted.
Article 4, Section 1.
Full faith and credit shall be given in each state to the public acts, records, and judicial proceedings of every other state, and the Congress may by general laws prescribe the manner in which such acts, records, and proceedings shall be proved, and the effect thereof.
Section 2.
The citizens of each state shall be entitled to all privileges and immunities of citizens in the several states. A person charged in any state with treason, felony, or other crime, who shall flee from justice and be found in another state, shall, on demand of the executive authority of the state from which he fled, be delivered up, to be removed to the state having jurisdiction of the crime.
Section 4. The United States shall guarantee to every state in this Union a republican form of government, and shall protect each of them against invasion, and on application of the legislature or of the executive when the legislatures cannot be convened, against domestic violence.
Article 5. The Congress, whenever 2/3 of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments to this Constitution, or, on the application of the legislatures of 2/3 of the several states, shall call a convention for proposing amendments, which in either case shall be valid to all intents and purposes as part of this Constitution, when ratified by the legislatures of 3/4 of the several states, or by conventions in 3/4 thereof, as the one or the other mode of ratification may be proposed by the Congress, provided that no state without its consent shall be deprived of its equal suffrage in the Senate.
Article 6. This Constitution and the laws of the United States which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding, the senators and representatives before mentioned, and the members of the several state legislatures, and all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution. But no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States.
Article 7. The ratification of the conventions of 9 states shall be sufficient for the establishment of this Constitution between the states so ratifying the same.
Amendments to the Constitution of the United States. The First Amendment.
Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances.
The Second Amendment. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
The Third Amendment. No soldier shall in time of peace be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law.
The Fourth Amendment.
The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized.
The Fifth Amendment.
No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime, unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia, when in actual service in time of war or public danger. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation.
The Sixth Amendment.
In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against him, to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defense.
The Seventh Amendment. In suits at common law where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of the common law.
The Eighth Amendment.
Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted.
The Ninth Amendment. The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people.
The 10th Amendment.
The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people.
The 13th Amendment.
Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude,
except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction.
The 14th Amendment, Section 1.
All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws.
Section 3. No person shall be a senator or representative in Congress, or elector of president and vice president, or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state, who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress, or as an officer of the United States, or as a member of any state legislature, or as an executive or judicial officer of any state to support the Constitution of the United States, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. But Congress may, by a vote of 2/3 of each house, remove such disability.
Section 4. The validity of the public debt of the United States, authorized by law, including debts incurred for payment of pensions and bounties for services in suppressing insurrection or rebellion, shall not be questioned. But neither the United States nor any state shall assume or pay any debt or obligation incurred in aid of insurrection or rebellion against the United States, or any claim for the loss or emancipation of any slave. But all such debts, obligations, and claims shall be held illegal and void.
The 15th Amendment, Section 1.
The right of the citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude.
The 19th Amendment.
The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex.
The 20th Amendment, Section 1.
The terms of the President and Vice President shall end at noon on the 20th day of January, and the terms of senators and representatives at noon on the 3rd day of January of the years in which such terms would have ended if this article had not been ratified, and the terms of their successors shall then begin.
You have been listening to sections of the Constitution of the United States, presented tonight on the Columbia Workshop because of the approaching national elections. It is our hope that by this presentation we shall have aroused a fresh desire in our listeners to familiarize themselves with this fundamental document of our national democracy. Next Sunday night at this same time, the Columbia Workshop will bring you a program of music by one of the world's outstanding living composers, Bela Bartok. The composer himself will appear as pianist. Tuesday is Election Day. CBS, as part of its established policy to give you an unbiased record of news of every kind, will bring to its nationwide audience complete and up-to-the-second reports of this great moment in the history of American democracy. From a central control in the CBS News studio, a staff of analysts, reporters, tabulators, checkers, copy readers, and technicians will coordinate the incoming tallies and bring to you instantly state-by-state interpretations of election trends. Elmer Davis, Albert Warner, and Bob Trout, radio veterans of many campaigns and elections, will be at the microphones until the final returns are in. Stay tuned to this station for the complete story Tuesday, November 5th. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
The story behind the song.
Dr. Samuel Gridley Howe of Boston was distinctly a liberal. He loved liberty himself and admired in a great measure those who sought personal and political freedom with sufficient zest even to fight. It wasn't strange, then, that liberty-loving 23-year-old Julia Ward, upon meeting Dr. Howe, should fall in love with him and subsequently marry him, even though he was 20 years her senior. It was during 1861 that the Howes, with their friends Reverend Dr. James Freeman Clark and Mrs. Clark, journeyed to Washington, D.C. on government business. As they sped through the night, Dr. Howe broke the silence.
Well, I'm afraid we're going to be in for some excitement.
Why,
Dr.
Sam,
Howe.
what do you mean?
There's war in the air tonight. I feel it.
Well, after all, Dr. Howe, the nation is at war.
I know, but there's something imminent here, near the Capitol. Look out the windows. Those bivouac fires of the pickets, all along the railroad right away. Something's up.
Oh, Sam, you're letting your fears run away with you.
Perhaps, my dear. Perhaps.
The next day, the party rode a few miles out from Washington to witness a series of military maneuvers under the command of Union General McClellan.
Well, Dr. Howe, Mrs. Howe, Mrs. Clark, Dr. Clark. Glad to see you. Come right over here. We're waiting for you.
Be careful. That's
All right, Colonel. Give the command for the review.
Yes, sir.
Pass in review. Column of squads right. Squads right. March.
Oh, this is thrilling, isn't it?
Certainly is. Look, there's a rider coming up from the other direction. Do you see him, General McClellan?
Yes. Yes, I do.
General McClellan, sir?
Yes? What is it?
Captain Ransom's complement, sir. He's been surrounded by Confederate troops and needs reinforcements at once.
Where is he?
In a small woods about 5 miles south, sir.
Colonel Brady, stop the review. Command a detachment of 2 battalions to follow this man to reinforce Captain Ransom.
Yes, sir.
Major Nicole.
I'm very sorry about this, ladies and gentlemen. But war is war.
I knew it. I said last night something like this would happen.
The worst of it, I'm afraid you're going to be delayed in getting back to Washington. I couldn't allow you to endanger yourselves while the skirmish is going on.
Well, that's all right. Let's go back to the carriage and just wait. I think with a brigade of Federal soldiers about us, we'll be quite safe here.
You're a very brave woman, Mrs. Howe.
Oh, not at all. Well, here we are. You first, Mrs. Clark. And Dr. Clark?
Thanks. All right, Julia, I'll help you. There. Why don't you sing something, Julia?
Sing? Oh, no.
Oh, why, yes. Now, that's a splendid idea.
Please, Mrs. Howe. Say, I've heard you sing up in Boston.
Well, all right. I'll start it off, and then you boys. Everybody join in. John Brown's body lies
a mouldering in the grave. John Brown's body lies a mouldering in the grave. John Brown's body lies a mouldering in the grave. His soul goes marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His soul goes marching on. Attention! Squads left. March!
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Mrs. Howe, I read some of the beautiful verses you've written to your husband's paper, the Boston Commonwealth.
Oh, yes, Dr. Clark.
Why don't you write some new words for that inspiring tune you just sung? Words worthy of the stirring melody, worthy of this occasion.
Oh, no, Doctor. I don't feel equal to the task. It'd take a far greater mind than mine to compose fitting words for that tune.
You owe it to your country, Julia Howe. You do. Why don't you try it?
Well, all right, Dr. Clark. Perhaps I shall.
That night, the excitement of the day passed. In the stillness of her hotel room, Julia Ward Howe lay thinking. Her mind seemed to be on fire, aflame with the glory of creation. Words, words, words were marching row on row across her mind's eye as the Union troops had done the day before. At last, she arose, walked softly to the small desk, took up a pen in the dismal gray of the breaking dawn, and began to write. With feverish speed, the words dripped from her pen. Entirely unaware of her surroundings, of the fact that her husband had been awakened and was watching her intently, unaware of the time she sat there writing, she finally paused, picked up the sheaf of papers scattered about her, and turned so that the roseate light of a new day could help her to read.
Julia.
Oh, yes, Sam.
What in the world are you doing?
Sam, I've written some words to that tune, as Dr. Clark suggested yesterday.
Oh?
And, Sam, I like this better than anything else I've ever written. Now, I can sleep.
Upon returning to the North, Mrs. Howe took the poem to her friend James T. Field. After reading the verses, it was he who suggested the title for them. And in the February 1862 issue of the magazine, of which Fields was editor, the Atlantic Monthly, the nation read for the first time the heroic words of Julia Ward Howe's immortal epic, The Battle Hymn of the Republic. Like the mad, boisterous flames sweeping rampant across the tinder grass of a prairie, the new song swept across the North. Everywhere, the powerful measures of the Battle Hymn of the Republic were raised to the heavens by the voices of men, women, and children. Then, when the last watchfire in the last circling camp had burned itself low, when the last row of burnished steel had marched into the annals of time, when the last trumpet that shall never call retreat had sounded the call for cessation of hostilities, there gathered in the nation's capital a large audience to hear the stirring tales of combat from the lips of fighting Chaplain McCabe. Sitting upon the platform was the president of a once more unified nation, Abraham Lincoln. And as McCabe concluded his speech,
22nd Ohio Volunteer Infantry. It was a glorious regiment, but we finally met defeat. At Winchester it was. And I, with a great number of my fellow soldiers, was captured. We were taken to Libby Prison. Oh, the horror of those days of waiting, of dismal silence within the walls of the prison, waiting for some word from the outside. We didn't know how the war was going. Finally, a little colored mess boy came up to me. His face broadened into a happy grin. Well, sir, Parson McCabe, the Union Army done won the Battle of Gettysburg. At that moment, I knew the tide of war had turned. Then I faced my prison mates and spread the great news to them. As one man, we lifted our voices in the glorious triumphant hymn, Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He is tramping out the vintage where the grapes of wrath are stored. He hath loosed the fateful lightning of his terrible swift sword. His truth is marching on.
Chaplain, let me shake your hand for that story.
Thank you, Mr. President. Why, Mr. Lincoln, there are tears streaming down your face.
I know. Yes, and I'm not ashamed of them. Not one bit. I just wish I could have been there in Libby Prison that day to sing that song with you.
Years later, when asked for an opinion by the author, Julia Ward Howe uttered these words.
The wild echoes of that fearful struggle have long since died away, and with them all memories of unkindness between ourselves and our southern brethren. But those who once loved my hymn still sing it. I hope and believe that it stands for what our whole country now believes in, that is, the sacredness of human liberty. My poem did some service in the Civil War. I wish very much that it may do good service in the peace, which I pray may never more be broken.
Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He is tramping out the vintage where the grapes of wrath are stored. He hath loosed the painful lightning of his terrible swift sword. His truth is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on.
has sounded forth a trumpet that shall never call retreat. He is sifting out the hearts of men before his judgment seat. Oh, be swift, my soul, to answer him. Be jubilant, my feet. Our God is